In Ecuador, Citizens Revolution candidate Luisa Gonzalez does not recognize the results of the 2025 presidential runoff amid voting irregularities. In South Korea, the criminal trial for insurrection of former President Yoon Suk-yeol began on Monday, with leader denying all charges. Israeli forces shelled dozens of tents in Khan Yunis following a warning to evacuate the area, leaving 150 displaced families without shelter. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Ecuador, the candidate for the Citizens Revolution, Luisa Gonzalez, did not recognize the results of the 2025 presidential runoff that gave the victory to current President Daniel Noboa. This way, Gonzalez emphasized that her party, Citizens Revolution, has always recognized the electoral results, except Sundays. Gonzalez denounced that previous opinion polls and surveys, including those of the national government, did not present a difference as alarming as the one of the votes seemingly counted. With many irregularities being denounced by voters and organizations, Gonzalez demanded that the votes be recounted with the due transparency.
Quiero ser muy clara y enfática.
I want to be very clear and categorical. The Citizens' Revolution has always recognized a defeat in the last elections when the polls and statistics have shown it. Today we do not recognize the results. I am going to be very clear, in the name of the men, women, children, young people, whom I represent, whom all of us who are here represent, in the name of the people we represent. We do not recognize the results presented by the National Electoral Council.
After the denunciation of electoral fraud by the Citizens Revolution candidate Luisa Gonzalez, the National Electoral Council of Ecuador proclaimed Daniel Noboa as the re-elected president of the country. After a process marked by irregularities, with the government of Daniel Noboa and the National Electoral Council interference in the electoral exercise. In addition, members of the Citizens Revolution denounced that the electoral body was uploading the minutes without signing them, which is a violation of the electoral laws of the country. And Ecuador's political movement Citizens Revolution denounces the electoral fraud of Sunday's presidential runoff election through a series of irregularities that question the veracity of the results. Through a communique, Citizens Revolution highlighted the following: manipulations of the official minutes, dozens of official minutes without signatures or legal validity, exclusively certified results in favor of Daniel Noboa, violating the basic norms of electoral transparency. The statements adds anticipated declarations by the National Electoral Council to influence public perception. The president of the National Electoral Council released preliminary results in favor of Noboa before the data was officially confirmed, and manipulating citizens' perception. The document also states military intimidation and obstruction of election observers, and excessive military presence deliberately impeded the work of independent observers and pollsters, severely limiting the transparency of the electoral process. To this also comes CELAC, who also posted the following: the collective of CELAC Social states, what has happened in this country is not only a case of administrative irregularities, it is a systematic setup aimed at imposing by force an authoritarian project led by Daniel Noboa. The document denounces last-minute alterations in voting places arbitrary use of state resources for clientelist purposes, deliberate exclusion of international observers, and the unacceptable suspension of the vote of thousands of Ecuadorians abroad. The communique states, in view of this scenario, we make an urgent call for organization, active resistance, and popular mobilization. It is on the streets, in the neighborhoods, in the communities, and in every corner of struggle where the defense of democracy must be upheld. Also in this context, on Monday, former Bolivian President Evo Morales took to his social platforms to show solidarity with Ecuadorian presidential candidate Luisa González. In his post, Morales stated, "We stand in solidarity and support our colleague Luisa González, victim of electoral fraud in Ecuador. We demand that international observers do their job and prevent this outrage against Ecuadorian democracy, that the people are not robbed of their right to choose cleanly who will preside over them. Let there be no repetition of what happened in the coup d'etat in Bolivia in 2019, when the Organization of American States joined those who attacked the sacred vote of the people." We are now going live to Ecuador with a special envoy, Jorge Stoso, to learn everything that is happening a day after the results were known in Ecuador's presidential runoff. Hello, Gestoso, welcome to From the South. What can you tell us of this Monday?
Well, as you was mentioning, Luisa González does not recognize the results of the runoff, as it does the same situation his political party, the Revolución Ciudadana, and she called, and these are her words, that the country has witnessed the worst and most grotesque electoral fraud in its history, and added, I reject the official count and I demand a full recount. Reactions that we have seen in terms of the political arena, the CELAC, in English, is the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, supported the denunciation of Luisa González. Another organization, we're talking about the ALBA organization. In English, it's the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americans, also denounced the fraud that she denounced and also support her situation. Former President of Bolivia, Evo Morales, supported Luisa González, denounced precisely the fraud. He believes that the situation is practically a carbon copy of what he has lived, a coup d'etat mostly after the election, that also he has been even persecuted and even has been tried to kill. Well, he was very, very supportive of Luisa González. And the current president of Mexico, we're talking about Claudia Sheinbaum, she said that we have to wait. We need to have more information. Here, inside the political party, the Revolución Ciudadana, there are certain members that are more inclined to accept the results and move forwards, and some of them, for example, the Vice President Diego Borja, is absolutely supportive of Luisa González, and also he announced that it has been a fraud, that was a situation plagued with irregularities, and also is asking the National Electoral Council to start a full investigation. We get back to you now.
Jorge Gestoso for this latest information. We're going to stay in tune in upcoming news brief to continue learning everything that is happening in Ecuador. Let's now continue with the analysis of Sunday's electoral day in Ecuador. We are now joined by international law expert Dr. Yvonne Telles. Welcome once again to From the South. What can you tell us?
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Dr. Yvonne, before going into deeper details, what are your general thoughts regarding Sunday's presidential runoff?
Okay, I think that what we have faced is a very strong shift between what was expected. Um, I mean, the results that were expected between the candidates, and I'm talking that what we were foreseeing was that even whoever won the election will do it for a very small margin. And what we saw yesterday, the first uh, great leap uh, from this previous idea, and I think that's the legitimate reason for a candidate Gonzalez in this case to ask for this review of the polls. Um, I understand as Dr. Gestoso was announcing, I just heard him. Some of the factions, some of the people that are within the Revolución Ciudadana movement are more keen to accept the results. Some of the others are just backing Luisa Gonzalez in this demand. I think the international regional organizations such as ALBA, such as CELAC, have made an announcement. And I think that for sakes of the health of democracy, it is a good, or at least is a healthy move if the candidate doesn't feel and doesn't feel well with how the polls went, how the elections went, and her legitimate right to ask for at least a revision, a review. It's under the rules of this game, and I think that for the sakes of democracy, if that has to be done, just to be clear about what happened yesterday and this radical shift from what was expected before the results that we achieved, well, then this has to be done. Um, as I'm saying, not just because of to satisfy some just personal or political parties' interests, but for the sakes of a healthy democracy, taking into account as well the difficult times that from the last 8 years we have been facing regarding the institutional fractures that the state has gone through.
Doctor, you were referring to the call, the demand of Luisa Gonzalez for a recount. What legal avenues exist in the country for this process, and what possible barriers might she find as she's carrying out this recourse?
Of course, the Electoral Council has the obligation and has already made an announcement regarding her demands, and they have to facilitate all the measures, all the mechanisms in order for this recount to be carried out. However, there are some legal rules that have to be followed in order for this to be carried out. And that means that also there has to be an objective and neutral advisory accompanying the whole process. Also, and I stated that yesterday. What I believe is that if Luisa Gonzalez has made this big, um, um, let's say, demand, and she has denounced this publicly, I believe that she might have very good proof in order to carry this out, because it's such a big thing to do after the elections. Again, she has all the right to do it, but we're talking about, well, approximately 1 million votes of difference. So that means that we will have to be talking about 1 million official registry of every vote in order to come to this demand. So I think that this is a very serious issue. It can be done, but under the legal requirements, that means that in this case, Revolución Ciudadana and candidate Gonzalez has to come to the table with all the proof that supports her demands.
Doctor, what response in this context, what response has the National Electoral Council given, if it has given any, and is there a track of credibility, of lack of credibility in the process regarding everything that has happened during the campaign coming to yesterday, the electoral day?
Yes, first, on the first thing, yes, the electoral the official way, but has responded as a previous answer to Luisa Gonzalez's demand, saying that yes, that it will provide all all the facilities in order for this recount to be carried out. So yes, they have answered, and I think that's, I mean, under the rules of democracy, that has that was the response that we were expecting, because she has all her right to demand for this recount. However, responding, answering to the second part of the question, we cannot deny that the Electoral Council has faced some serious questions that we have posed regarding its distance from the current government. We have not seen the force that we will have expected as citizens regarding the transparency of its actions. There are some things that have not been clear, and that in this case, I think has to be surpassed in order for this recount to be transparent and to be reliable. And I think that demands for international observers to accompany this recount. Otherwise, we could face a deepening of this polarization and these doubts and these critics that have imposed to the Electoral Council regarding the independence that it hasn't shown with the current government.
Thank you, Doctor. We're going to stay attentive to everything that is happening in Ecuador. Thank you for your time and for your inputs hearing from the South.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's always our pleasure. Let's now take our first break. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. In Argentina, Santa Fe Province Governor Maximiliano Puyaro won a resounding victory in the elections for constituent convention members in Santa Fe, ensuring a clear majority. Second place went to Juan Monteverde, candidate representing Peronismo, with 14.8% of the votes, while in third place was Nicolás Moyaraz of Liberty Advances with 13.9%. In the next days, the Assembly will be formed to debate a constitutional reform in matters of political security, municipal autonomy, and modernization of the state. In this regard, Governor Puyaro emphasized that with this reform, what is being discussed is the next 20 or 30 years of the province. U.S. President Donald Trump met with his Salvadoran counterpart Nayib Bukele on Monday to tackle strategic cooperation issues, namely the massive deportations of Latin American migrants. The Salvadoran head of state has been in the U.S. since past Saturday. His visit was reportedly aimed at strengthening his alliance with Trump. U.S. media asserted that Bukele would be the first Latin American president to be received at the White House for their good relations. In this context, both leaders, who were accompanied by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance, discussed the return of Salvadoran migrant Kilman Abrego Garcia, wrongly deported to a high-security prison. In this regard, Bukele stated that Abrego was a criminal in the U.S. and that he won't be freeing him. And in South Korea, the criminal trial for insurrection of former President Yoon Suk-yeol began on Monday, with the leader denying all charges. Precisely, the former president argued that his imposition of martial law in December last year did not amount to an insurrection, but was a lawful and symbolic act. Let's recall that Yoon was impeached by Parliament days after he briefly declared martial law on December 3, 2024, which lasted around 6 hours before being overturned by the National Assembly and sparked mass protests. The impeachment was unanimously upheld by the Constitutional Court. If charged with insurrection, Yoon could face life imprisonment or even the death penalty. In this context, the nation heads towards a snap presidential election on June 3rd. Israeli forces shelled dozens of tents in Khan Yunis following a warning to evacuate the area, leaving 150 displaced families without shelter. The bombing did not kill or injure any displaced persons, but left dozens of displaced families homeless in the Gaza Strip. The shelling also hit the aid distribution center, which is affiliated with the Relief Agency for Refugees, UNRWA. In this regard, the displaced persons claimed that the shelling also included humanitarian aid intended to be delivered to the refugee camp. It is important to note that in recent days, more than 150,000 Palestinians have been forcibly displaced from Rafah in southern Gaza as Israel's ground and air operations in the area have intensified. And Palestinian civil defense denounced that the Israeli occupation regime had been arbitrarily attacking the health sector in the Gaza Strip. Earlier, the Zionist forces had demanded to evacuate Zaytun town, southern Gaza. Right afterwards, Israeli airstrikes hit the area, namely the Al-Hali Baptist Hospital, the last one able to provide medical assistance. So far, authorities report no fatalities. In this context, the Return Health and Community Association in Gaza condemned the Israeli campaign against the Gaza's healthcare centers, and it underscored that over 60% of hospitals and primary care centers have been destroyed since October 2023. And Houthis authorities registered new U.S. airstrikes on Sana'a city, which brought about 6 deaths and 30 others injured. Yemeni media reported that U.S. bombings targeted a factory in the industrial Al-Sawari western zone in Bani Matar region. Houthis confirmed the aforesaid death toll and wounded in the ceramics factory after the 3 consecutive attacks. In addition to the impact of shellings on Sunday evening, Houthis further claimed that the factory had recently resumed its operation after receiving a similar aggression in 2016 that had kept it closed for several years. Likewise, they highlighted that the U.S. offensive have claimed some 100 lives and injured 250 people, mostly women and children. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.